Hey y'all, and welcome to another edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance. The NFA's purpose is to honor, improve, and advance the sport of tackle football. If you're the parent, coach, or administrator of a youth or high school player, you're in the right place. We aim to deliver an authentic voice regarding performance, safety, and the medical truth to support you and your players. My name is John Reagan. With me is Joe Rafter. Let's kick it off. Welcome back to the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance, where we honor, improve, and advance the game of tackle football on a daily basis. I am excited to be here. I am John Reagan, and excited to be here with a great guest and my good friend Joe Rafter. And so, Joe, I'll say, how are you doing tonight?
John, I'm doing all right. It's been a long week. We did a session last night. We're doing a session tonight. We haven't done these back to back in a while. It's pushing me a little bit.
All right, let's try this again. Joe, how are you doing tonight?
I'm going to keep my energy up. I'm super excited about this topic, and our guest Eric Gallo. I think we have a really interesting topic. We're going to talk a lot about NIL, players, and kind of the environment that's happening right now in college football, and might even dip a little bit into high school, because it's starting to enter even some high school areas across the country. But with that said, before I get too far into it, Eric, welcome to the Unscripted Huddle.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joe and John. Excited to be here, and let's talk football.
Yeah, let's go. So, Eric, first down, opening question. Help our audience understand a little bit about your background in football and kind of, how you grew up in the sport, and where that led you to where you are today.
Okay, so I'm Eric Gallo. It's great to meet everybody. I was playing football when I was probably 5 years old, playing flag football on the Pop Warner Leagues in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Took that into middle school football at my local CYO program. Eventually went into the high school program, Council Rock South in Richboro or Holland, Pennsylvania. Had a career at Council Rock South. Made All-American my senior year, and was recruited to go play football at Virginia Tech. The coach at the time was legendary Frank Beamer.
Wow.
So I went out of state down to Blacksburg. Was there for 4 seasons. Started my last 3, so kind of rode the pine and learned the ways my freshman year, and then started for pretty much almost every game after that. Played in 4 bowl games, an ACC championship game. Played at Notre Dame, played at Ohio State, Clemson. When they were winning national championships, we actually played them that year in the championship for the ACC. And then had a cup of coffee in the NFL, as I like to say. I was at Eagles rookie minicamp I think I was there for 4 days total. I earned $32 in the NFL, which is more than most. But
Does that get you a pension or
not quite?
Not quite. You got a couple years left.
It's the mileage rate from 2018 calculated from my address in Richboro to the NovaCare complex, and it came out to $32. So I think they got a good deal on me because I live so close. Yeah. It's cheap labor.
That's funny.
Yeah. Had a cup of coffee in the NFL. I didn't have all my marbles in one basket. So I had a finance degree from Virginia Tech to fall back on. Started as a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley shortly after my tryout with the Eagles, and I've been working there since. I'm going on my 8th year, and have kind of been building my practice of clients as a financial advisor ever since. So that was kind of my football story. That's how I kind of came up and eventually got to the point where the game walked away from me, or I walked away from the game, however you want to describe it. But that's kind of the journey.
Cool. Before we get into where you are now, and kind of, because that's really it's super keen to have that conversation. Help our audience understand a little bit. What was it like playing for Coach Beamer?
It was pretty special. I was there for his last game. We carried him off the field when we were down at Virginia Tech, his last win ever. So he announced his retirement towards the end of the season, but he did like a little retirement tour. So he was still coaching, but having announced his retirement at the end of the year. Coach Beamer really is it's hard to kind of understand what he's like as a person. He's the most down-to-earth person you could ever meet. Does things the right way, has like respect for everyone he comes across, and he was just it's hard to explain what kind of person he was. He's that impressive.
Eric, were you there for a transition to the new coach, or were you done when Coach Beamer was done as well?
I was a sophomore at that point.
You were, okay, so you were there for talk maybe a little bit without, again, not trying to knock anybody or anything, but how much of the culture of what y'all had, and again, I played against Coach Beamer when he was coaching at Virginia Tech, and I was at Syracuse a couple of years before you. But there always seemed to be, there was a lifestyle even more than a culture, literally, like a family. That how much of that was, and again, not asking for a percentage, but all him versus what he had built and just sustainable without him?
Yeah, well, it was a family atmosphere. So his son Shane, who's head coach himself now, was our running backs coach at the time. It was obviously Frank Beamer was the head coach, but there was a lot of other people there who had been there for a very long time, built this culture over time, and a lot of those folks stayed on the staff. So the new staff that came in kept some of his old assistant coaches and coordinators and administrative people in the building. So it wasn't like a complete. They didn't completely clean house, to use that term. There was a lot of like carryover from what he had established, because it was so well regarded down there. Very
cool. John, you got another? I'm still on first down.
No, keep going. Hey, go ahead.
So what was it? What was it like playing in that stadium?
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it was pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if not the best, one of the best fan bases in the country, especially pound for pound. Being, the support that the fans give is incredible. A lot of that has to do with all the success that Coach Beamer had down there years and years before I even knew what a Virginia Tech Hokie was. So it's not like, they were all there to see me necessarily. Like, it was a tradition that was in place for a long time. Stadium was incredible. Student body was incredible. The entrance to Enter Sandman was obviously unforgettable. And, it was a cool experience. Something cool
Joey,
to look back on.
We talk about, with different people, we've talked about favorite venues to play in or coach in, and it's never come up, and it's just because it probably was so early in my career, but we went down there in 2001, I think. It was 2001 or 2002. It was Vic's senior year, and Enter Sandman had just started. We were playing on a Saturday night, and I was coaching at Temple at the time, and we went down and we played, and the rocking, the stadium itself was just on fire. Like, it was just this unbelievable atmosphere. And then Michael Vick's playing quarterback. I was coaching defense at the time, so it had to be 2001, because 2002
you didn't sleep that week at all.
Well, and I was coaching D-line, and we had three NFL defensive linemen. We had Dan Klecko, Raheem Brock, and Russell Newman. And so, I mean, we were decent up front. We weren't any good. We were running the same defense. We were running Bud Foster's, robber 8-man front. I mean, it was us against them basically defensively. The difference was about halfway through the second quarter when we're getting them to 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, holding on, playing for dear life, and then he'd drop back, throw the ball, and say, "No, I got this," and get a first down. And so our defense coordinator at the time, Raymond Monica, great ball coach, head coach at Clarion right now, he asked me one time, he goes, "John, what are we going to do on 3rd down to stop him?" I said, "Raymond, it does not matter what you call. We are not stopping Michael Vick tonight." I was literally in awe watching him perform on the field. Just such a different level of athlete. When they talk about the talent gap shrinks as you move up, it didn't shrink at all that night. He made it about as big as it ever gets.
Yeah.
Great environment to play in, man. I think not having a pro sports team really anywhere nearby, you get just such a great sports atmosphere.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely.
Cool. All right, should we go to 2nd down? All right, so Eric, tell our audience a little bit. You talked about you're a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley. You build a practice. Tell us a little bit about the practice that you're building now.
Yeah, so I've been at Morgan Stanley for 8 years now. I'm a certified financial planner, which means that I passed a test and some very strict qualifications to achieve that, and I can market myself as a certified financial planner practitioner. And so my business is I'm working with individuals, so Mr. and Mrs. Smith, their kids, maybe their parents. A lot of my clients involved are multi-generational, meaning there's multiple generations of the same family working with them, whether that's wealth passing down to the next generation or opening up college accounts for younger children. I am doing customized investments for them, making an investment portfolio for them that's really based on what they need specifically versus something that's off the shelf. Doing a financial plan for them, which is basically where we're just going to lay out all the client's goals, figure out what we're trying to solve for, and then create a path to get there. I actually compare it to a strength and conditioning coach who's trying to set a player's goal for how much weight they want to lift, and then figure out kind of a day-to-day plan to get that. Same thing with my job. It's figuring out where the client wants to go in the future, when they want to retire, or what house they want to buy, what they want to pay for their kids' college tuition, and what kind of legacy they want to leave behind to their loved ones when they're no longer here. But then mapping out how we're going to get there year to year, month to month, with savings, with investing, with kind of thinking strategically about their money, and then ultimately being there for the next generation to either inherit that money or build their wealth in and of themselves. So that's kind of my practice in a snapshot. Every client is very different. I'm like a chameleon because I've got to work with all different types of people, or I get to work with all different types of people, and everyone's different. Everyone has different goals. So I'm trying to create an experience that's specific to what that specific client is going to respond to and do well with.
Eric, I'm sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
As you have obviously important work that so many people don't think about, but you also have a background that's a little bit unique, which probably has brought you into the maybe a little bit different clientele base at times. To talk a little bit about that and how sports and how football has kind of influenced some of those directions and some of the people you're working with.
Yeah, I work with, so I'm an NFLPA registered financial advisor, so I'm licensed with the NFLPA. So the PA creates a list of financial advisors who are approved, and I guess you could call them like approved vendors, if you will. Right. I'm on that list. I have a number of NFL players, current, former, and future, hopefully, NFL players, and their families who are clients. and then a number of coaches who I knew from my previous life as a football player or met throughout the years, networking and getting introduced to other football coaches as clients as well. So it's kind of like a blend of like being a financial advisor. Like a lot of folks want to work with someone that they know and trust, and I know a lot of football people from my past life, and a lot of them trust me, and then you kind of meet, you work with one coach, and then that coach realizes that he knows somebody that could use the same thing, or sees himself in somebody else and says, hey, maybe you should talk to Eric. And same thing with players. They're always looking for a good person to work with, someone who's trustworthy and that does the right thing for them. And so from there, it just kind of developed into a clientele of mine. I don't work exclusively with football folks, but there are clients who have nothing to do with that. But as far as like some of the people who I've met organically, that's kind of my network, if you will, my non-business football network. So
Eric, in one of the conversations we had, you talked a little bit about, double clicking into some of the football stuff that you just shared, right? If we focus in on that segment of your work, you shared with me some collateral of what you're doing to educate young men and women, and or women, on NIL and because the need for financial advising, I think, is becoming more and more significant for high schoolers even these days, who are looking at going into college, and they're looking at getting paid $300,000 or something with to go play football somewhere, and that's a lot of money for 17, 18-year-old. Talk to us a little bit about how you're engaged in that segment of the population, and kind of what even like starting with what is NIL from how you see it and the clients that you're talking to.
So NIL is an acronym for name, image, and likeness. It's a rule that was passed, I think, in 2021 by the NCAA or whatever legislative branch, that basically allowed college players, college athletes of all sports to earn income off of their name, their image, or their likeness. It basically opened up the ability for them to get paid, whether it's for playing a sport, or for doing a side hustle, or for doing marketing with companies. That's now permissible. Whereas back when I was in college, way back when, I was there 2014.
Not as long ago as John and I.
Yeah, not that long ago.
You're the youngest guy on the show right now.
Yeah,
decades.
If I told a kid in college today that we didn't get, they look at me like I'm 100 years old. But back in, I guess before 2021, that was not permissible for someone with a student. This is my understanding of it, but when I was in college, to be deemed a student athlete, I couldn't take an income. I think from pretty much anywhere. Don't quote me on that.
Even a legitimate. No, it's correct. Even a legitimate income, you couldn't have. Been on scholarship and worked a full-time job, or been
or
paid.
You would have to either quit the sport
one of the two,
in order to make the income. I think like the interesting one was there was a YouTuber back when I was in college, and the YouTuber was a football player and started to earn income from YouTube and doing advertisements, and he decided to stop playing football in order to pursue the YouTube income. So that has nothing to do with the money wasn't coming from his athletic ability to play, college football. It was coming from an outside source, and that was impermissible, now can be. So that's kind of what's happening as far as I see it. As far as financial education, I think maybe it's just my biased opinion, but I think younger folks are getting access to more and more money earlier, whether it's NIL or just in general. They're young folks, meaning like under the age of 40. They're inheriting wealth at the moment. They are producing wealth. They're able to do it in ways that didn't exist 10 years ago, whether it's NIL or YouTube or building your own marketing and branding. So more and more people are looking for this kind of education. And the ironic thing about the wealth management industry is there's a pretty severe shortage of young financial advisors who are getting into the business. When I say shortage, it just means that the average age of an advisor, according to industry research, is getting older and older. And so there's less folks in that age bracket that can kind of directly educate and advise some of those people. So that's kind of a high level. That's kind of how I'm seeing it from my seat.
With that, Eric, and I think, Joe, we're here in second down, and so we're just going to continue here with second down real quick. But
right on.
We haven't done a great job staying on task with that, have we? But talk a little bit, like in that education, as you're seeing this, you're learning about it, and now you're trying to relay some of that information back to younger people in wealth, whether they're inheriting, or let's talk now specifically maybe. Players that are that have now money coming in. I mean, what are the 3, 4, 5 things that you're telling each one of these young men? Like, what do they need to really know when they're when they have income? And I would say a disproportionate number don't have any idea what they should be doing with it. Yeah. Because it's happening, as you mentioned, so much earlier in their life. They haven't had the experience of, hey, how should I be breaking this down? What should I be doing? So what are those top things that you tell them?
Yeah, so the top one by far is understanding how income, having a general idea of what income taxes are. And I'm not an accountant. I don't give tax advice. But having an accountant interact with that player who's earning this money is critical that happens early and often, because if that doesn't happen, kids are left with a surprise come April that they owe taxes on money, and sometimes they're not even sure what that means, and it's not their fault. We don't get taught this in college. I know I didn't.
Right. Or some of these kids coming out of high school. I mean, legitimately.
I was a finance major at Virginia Tech, and until you get into the real world with real paychecks and real decisions, you're not going to be able to really predict any of these things coming. So the earlier you can get an accountant involved, the better. Second thing would just be not only saving for taxes, but living below your means and trying to be in what I call a surplus month to month, paycheck to paycheck, meaning you have more money coming in than you're spending, and trying to save some money, not only for taxes, but for your future self. And the third thing would probably be trying to get started with building your credit score. Very fundamental, but just having a credit score, starting to build that up, so that later in life, when you're older, or you want to buy your first home or buy a car or whatever you're looking to do, if you decide to use financing to do that, you've got a history of on-time payments for your credit score. So those are the 3 things that I focus on, and and the key with all 3 of those are I'm trying to take administrative burden off the player's plate and off their shoulders, so that they can be a college kid and go play college football. Like, that's what they're there to do. They're not there to balance credit card, stuff and do their own taxes. Like, that's stuff that other people can do to help them if they're open to it, and they can focus on whatever they find important, probably football, probably graduating, and doing what they need to do for themselves to make them successful or accomplish their dreams.
Cool. Really helpful advice for and sound advice for a high school kid who may or may not, have heard these things before. I think it's really, really helpful for them to hear it from you, Eric. If I move to third down, college football player playing somewhere. I've had a couple of these scenarios that I've heard of recently through some of my coaching friends, and they're playing at school and they've gotten on somebody else's radar, and now they're getting offered to get paid, $300,000, or they're offering to get paid to go play at another school. And any recommendations on how to handle that as a college player now? Not necessarily in high school, but now you're showing up, and you got an opportunity to go make some extra money. Thoughts, perspectives on how to handle that income opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a transfer portal when I was in college. My younger brother.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
My younger brother caught the tail end of the transfer portal, meaning he had 2 years available to transfer. He decided not to. That's a lot to navigate. It's like entering free agency, but instead of 32 teams, it's over 100 teams, and there are a lot of variables at play rather than only the money. The money's got to be seriously considered, but I guess my advice, I'm not even going to give these kids advice because I never got to experience that, but there's always more to it than just the money, and going to a place that you feel comfortable with all of the other variables. I don't have to explain what they are. We all know what they are with college life and long-term opportunity, but having good making decisions for the right reasons and doing them as to the best of your ability. It's a tough one, to be honest with you. It's a good question, but I'm not really the right person to ask that. I know these college kids have agents as well at this point that kind of can help guide them through them, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for yourself if you're the player.
Eric, with that as a follow-up here to the third down, is there if I'm a college kid right now, okay, just use me specifically then, is there a threshold, a bottom level, when we're talking about what amount of money makes a difference, right? And I know it's different for every single person in their life and the lifestyle they're coming from and with their families, and $10,000 makes a huge difference to some people, where $120,000 doesn't make any difference to some people. So taking that out of it, if we were just going to say average, is there an amount, a threshold that you would say, hey, this is a significant amount of money that maybe you should consider, or is there a threshold you say below this, it really doesn't make that much of a difference in the long term? So maybe think more about the rest of those college experiences or your coach or whatever.
Yeah.
And if there's not, I don't mean to put you in a bad spot. I'm really just asking to learn.
I don't think there is. And the reason I say that is I don't think it's, you got to go into these, players are entering these conversations and they're not as simple as they may sound.
Correct.
They're more complicated, and I know when I was in college, changing schools seemed like a big task to me. Like that would take up a lot of time and brain power and moving, and let alone like how the money is structured can be very different based on the player, the school. There's so many layers to that question. It's a great question. I think you'd have to have an agent on here to probably talk through some of that. because I don't understand like the intricacies of how the money is guaranteed or not guaranteed or whatever. But I do know that it's more. There's more to it than this school's this much, this school's that much. Like compare them apples to apples. There's obviously a lot there to unpack that, I'm probably not the right person to ask that.
Cool. So, all right, I got another. I'm throwing a flag, John. I want to stay
for it.
I want to stay on third down here. I'm going to do a take it, leave it, or change it. So I'm going to throw something out there. You either take it, keep it. Either leave it, forget about it, or change it. And if you change it, you gotta explain your take it, leave it, or change it.
Okay.
Right? And this is for both of you guys. We haven't done this in
We haven't done this in a while, yeah.
We haven't done something like this in a while. So there might be some softballs here, and there might be some more interesting ones. But so like transfer portal, take it, leave it, change it.
I'm letting you go first, Eric.
You're letting me go first?
Yep. I have a very strong opinion on this, so I'm letting you go first.
I would change it. I would keep it in place, but change it to where it's more predictable, and it would. Back when I was in college, there was a sit out rule. If you had a transfer, I thought that was smart and made people think hard about leaving a school, and I think that would be a good change.
Cool, John.
Yeah, I'm gonna change it. I think the genie's out. It's not it's not going back in the bottle. So saying take it or leave it, I don't even think it's an option. But I do think that one, there have been some changes already made. Actually, every single year the transfer portal's been open. There's been change. At least going to once a year, which it did this year, has been helpful in the sense that at least as an organization, you can plan a little bit better about what your roster is going to look like. The change that I would try to make, and twofold. One, more regulation. I'm not sure that you're ever going to get back to the sit out for a full year for your first transfer, but I do think that it has to be regulated. Otherwise, it's not only free agency every year with 100-plus teams, but it's free agency as many times as you want it with that many teams. So there's got to be some regulation that's put in there. And they're in the process of trying to do that, I think. It's just nobody wants to get sued, so nobody wants to put their name on it. And we're counting on politicians to do it. And, Joe, you know how I feel about that. Mm-hmm. The second piece I think it needs to change as best as it could, and it will never match up perfectly, is to somehow do a better job of mirroring the academic calendar. This past year, the portal opens in January. It closed, 15 days later. And there were some schools that even during the portal period were past their admissions opportunities. And so I think that that to me, that's not only an unfair advantage, but it's not like even for the players who this is supposed to be for, and their opportunities to provide the best opportunity for themselves. I just think it's tough. So there are a few specific changes I think would need to make there. That academic regulation, and then some kind of reining it back in, so it's not a every year wild west. Right on.
I think you got to change it too. I agree with you, John. I don't think you can just leave it as is. I don't think you can drop it. I think there should be limits on the number of transfers that a player can engage in within their college eligibility window, and I think that I don't know, that should be a standard number across the board. And I think I like the idea of if your coach changes, that maybe that gives you another opportunity, like an extra opportunity to leave, right? Because if I go and I play for a coach for 2 years and I got let's say I have one transfer that I'm eligible for in my college career, and my coach leaves, well, I should get a second because I might have stayed, but I want to leave, and now I want to have the opportunity to make two changes if I want, because one was initiated by the coach and one is something that I get just like every other football player in the country. I think there should be some consideration for the coaching element.
It's interesting, Joe. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say it's interesting you use the term limit, and that's the one that keeps getting people sued by players, because that has literally been the issue for so long from the NCAA is the limitations. And so I'm not disagreeing that limits shouldn't be applied, but that's the one thing that everybody's afraid of structuring, because if you're limiting somebody's opportunity to earn income, the courts get involved real quick.
So let's. I got a couple more of these. So let's go.
Yeah, sorry.
No. Next one. Paying players or not? Take it, leave it, change it.
Take it. I think if there's I think there should be a free and open market, just like every other job industry. And if players are worth it to the university and to the schools, they should be able to earn that money. Just like the example of the player when I was in school who couldn't accept money from his side hustle. I think we're a capitalist society. We believe in free and open markets, and if you're delivering value, or if someone's willing to pay you something, you should be able to capitalize on that.
Right on.
Joe, you got to go next on this one.
I have another wrinkle to the question, but
well, then you could give it to me because you know my answer on this one. So
I really struggle with this one. I would say change it. I agree with you, Eric. I think players should benefit from the economic environment that they participate in and that they create. Absolutely, positively. I think there should be a degree of equitable compensation. I also think that there needs to be a lot more structure to that than what is in place today. I think it is a free-for-all right now, and that there's so much money involved that it needs some bumpers, and I'm deeply concerned about the impact of paying players and the transfer portal that it has on this generation of football players. This generation of football players is going to grow up, and they're going to be dads, and they're going to be coaches in our sport. And the values that they're learning through this environment, the environment that they're participating in, literally the values that they're learning are contradictory to what the sport, I think, is all about. Over to you, John.
I mean, I actually want to dive into that statement, what you just made. So, out of curiosity, if a electric line worker were making $175,000 a year as an 18-year-old electric line worker whose family had always been in the electric union, and he was not, and his dad only made $75,000 his whole life, and he's all of a sudden making $175,000 for the same job because the market pays that job. Are you worried about how that kid is growing up and what he's learning from the electric line worker just because he's making $100,000 more than his dad did for the exact same job, taking inflation out of it? And I say that because I don't think I think that it's not the payment of players that could ruin the next generation of coaches or the next generation of football players. It's what their coaches teach them along the way. It's what they're allowed or not allowed to learn along the way. That it's not the payment, it's not the money that's going to do it. I mean, that's just kind of a, I guess, contrary a little bit belief. I don't think that it's the money that's ruining our players and what they're doing moving forward. I think there are lessons that they're missing because of it, but I don't think it's because they're getting paid.
Yeah, see, I struggle with it because you got guys who are going from one team to the next because they're going to get, a bump in some salary. And so it's really about me and what I can get for me at an age where you're 18, 19, 20, 21, and the sport is built to teach people about teamwork, about putting others ahead of yourself. And I feel like the money combined with the portal is creating an environment where it's really easy to learn values and to behave in ways that contradict what I think the sport is about.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I would just say that the exception of the person that transfers multiple times for more money is usually balanced by the success that person has, and then is usually exemplified by the success the teams that keep signing players like that have. And so I think it's going to. I don't necessarily think it's going to say, hey, you're going to learn faster because you're going to learn that you're going to be on a losing team, or it's all about you. If it's all about you, your team's going to lose. But I don't think that lesson's being lost. I just think it's not being forced to be learned. They're having to learn it the hard way.
What do you have to say about a developmental culture? So how do you think this compensation for players affects the players' commitment to development and coaches' commitment?
It makes it harder. Doesn't make it less important. It just puts more onus on the coaching staff, in my opinion, and just makes it needs to be a little bit more of a focus.
Which I agree with you, but it also puts the coach and the player, I think, on a little bit of a different plane in that coach is there to develop you. You're there to make plays and get paid, which is fine. Like, again, I'm okay with getting paid, right? But
you're talking about apples and oranges. If you're in a developmental culture where you're trying to be developed, and a coach is trying to develop you, then you're not worried about just getting paid. Like I would put this to Eric: if you took the world that you lived in and the culture, because it literally studied by coaches, including myself, for decades under Coach Beamer. And the exact same players with the exact same culture that Coach Beamer had were getting paid just for their services. Would the culture have disappeared? Would it have been harder to? I'll admit right off the bat, it would have been harder to get 105 to buy in. But would the culture have disappeared, or would it have still been as strong as it was?
I think it depends on if the transfer portal was in place or not at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the
portal
was
a combination.
How it is today, or even last year with the multi-transfers within a year, I don't think that would have been the case. I think if the portal was, or the lack of the portal was how it was, and you added compensation to that structure, I don't think it would have changed all that much, to be honest with you.
I agree with that.
I think that kids back then were going to Virginia Tech to play for Coach Beamer, to play for a strong program that sent kids to the NFL, and a good. I went to Virginia Tech because it had a good business school, which is like unheard of today.
No, for real, it's a different decision.
I mean, I guess you're kind of So. I think if there wasn't a portal but there was money, I think a lot of that would still be intact. But with the portal and the ability to change year after year, or even within the year, I think it makes it just harder to build that type of like Beamer culture.
Yeah, Joe, I'll put we'll end the third down in my flag and my overtime and everything else with this statement. And not with any sarcasm whatsoever. There are plenty of examples of great programs with great cultures over the past from 2005 to 2021 where, if we're going to be really transparent, where players were getting paid plenty of money. And the culture still existed, development of players still existed, because things were in place that's just the way it was going to be, and the expectation was set by the leadership. And I'm not by any stretch saying, oh, there's an exception of this school or that school. We're talking probably of the top 35 programs of the last 2 decades, 25 of them were in that pool of schools. So it can happen, but I agree with you. The combination, I will absolutely agree. The combination of the portal and the excessive amount of money right now has gotten things way out of whack.
Yeah, the system's broken, and so in a broken system, you got, you have a bit of chaos.
Yep, no doubt.
Okay,
I just gotta say, I don't think it's not all bad. NIL gets a bad rap right now, that it is broken and that it's not good for the sport. There are parts of it that aren't good for the sport, but tell you what, there's a lot of good things coming out of it too. Players are getting a start in life that others did not get, that came before them. They can build a brand and and start in life in a different way and get compensated for what they're doing. Or you got kids who there are amazing transfer stories where somebody wasn't getting a chance or was underdeveloped at a certain program and then left and went, became a first round draft pick off of that and set themselves up for life. And then if you look at other types of sports where an athlete could build a following on social media and monetize that. They couldn't do that back in the day. Like, they couldn't be a creator or a influencer. And so the fact that comes in, if it's a different sport, maybe they're not transferring for money or being paid to play their sport, but they can use their brand as an athlete to do deals with other companies and make money off of that, and then they have that going for them into the real world. So there is a ton of good coming out of it. I don't want to mark it all up as bad changes.
No doubt, and I'll say this: I think too that the pedestal that college football is on is unique, because it is the only pro sport that there really truly isn't some version of a minor league or a preparation league for student athletes, for athletes, young athletes, to earn some kind of income. And I think that's what makes this question, the answers or the dialogue about this question so passionate, because it was so unique and it is so unique that nobody wants it to change, right? Because there's so many things about it that are so wonderful. It's just hard to. Yeah, I said I'd stop, so I'll stop. But I do think that's part of it. I think that uniqueness has a lot to do with why the arguments and the conversations are so passionate about it. It's hard to look at a college football playoff that for 5 years is worth $7 billion to the teams involved and say that not a huge amount of that shouldn't be involved, that it's not earned. And because I promise you this, it ain't a lick of coaching I ever did that's going to help somebody earn that money. It's what those players are doing and putting on the show.
Right on. All right, fourth down. We will undoubtedly come back to that topic in future shows. Fourth down, Eric. First time for a former player.
Right.
Top 4 stadiums you ever played in.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Unfortunately, he didn't get to play in the vet, Coach, against Temple, so he can't use that one.
His knees thank him. His knees thank him.
I would say the best environment we played in was probably Ohio State. We played at the Horseshoe.
The shoe.
Prime time game there, which is pretty amazing.
What year was that?
That was my
or which one? Or, yeah,
2014.
Okay.
And they went on to win the national championship that year.
Yeah.
We played at Notre Dame, which was really cool. Didn't get to spend as much time on the campus, any time on the campus other than the game, which would have been cool. We played the ACC championship was pretty cool. That was in Orlando, just because it was the ACC championship.
Yeah, it's a championship game, right on.
Yeah, really cool. And then Virginia Tech would be, I guess that would be number one technically.
Yeah, that would be number one. Absolutely.
Yeah. If that doesn't count, there were some other good ones too. We played at Bristol Motor Speedway.
That's right. I forgot. That was one of those. They used to do that. Yeah.
That was a cool one.
Wow.
Yeah. We played in a NASCAR stadium.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not many football players walking around saying they played a game in a NASCAR venue.
I think that's the only one it's ever been done in.
It might be. Yeah. It might be. We were walking up the the racetrack to get in and out of the makeshift locker rooms. Like they built the locker rooms, and those things are steep.
Yeah,
you know, you go around you're like, so they had rugs laid out for us and everything, and yeah, that was actually really cool. There was a lot of people there.
John, same question to you.
Who, as a player or as a coach, or does it matter?
As a player.
Oh, as a player. So I'm going to, as I always do, I'll date myself and tell you that we played in 1990, I think it was 2 or 3, I can't remember. It was 1993. We played at the old Orange Bowl when the U was still rocking. Mm-hmm. And everybody said, oh, it's like a carnival. It was a carnival. It was a circus. It was. I mean, that was a pretty cool one. I mean, they obviously had. Maybe it was '92 because I think Caesar was still there, Sapp and those guys were still there. But that was a really, really cool environment because, I mean, it wasn't your typical college football fan. It wasn't Jim and Jeff that had graduated and been. I mean, it was Little Havana. It was cool. It was a really, really cool environment. I wouldn't say it's number one, but it's in the top there. Let's see, as a player. I mean, I would have to tell you that the Dome was pretty cool to play in when we were rocking in Syracuse. I mean, again, that same time frame, we played 1991, I think, 90 or 91. We played Miami in the Dome, last game of the season. Winner went to play Alabama for the national championship. Loser went to Arizona to play Cordell Stewart in the Fiesta Bowl, and we ended up in the Fiesta Bowl. Ended the game on the 4-yard line that game, but that place was rocking. And I loved playing there. It wasn't just the environment. The environment was great, but everybody would come in there and think, oh, it's the Carrier Dome. It's air conditioned. It's nice. And it's the hardest place in the world to breathe because there's no air conditioning. Well, there wasn't. There is now, but there wasn't at the time. Okay, still as a player here. I thought it was really cool. We played at Florida State when they were still rocking in the late 80s. That was pretty nice. That was a pretty cool. I'm going to have to leave it at 3. Well, you know what? My 4th was Daycare Royal at University of Texas. I had decided between Syracuse and Texas. My family's all from Texas, and so that was a huge decision for me. But to go be able to play there with my grandfather there, and with at the time 70,
like returning home.
Yeah, and 80,000 people. I mean, it wasn't 115 or whatever it is now, but a packed place that just loves football and steeps of tradition, and Bevo on the sideline, and it was pretty neat. I would have said Virginia Tech because it really was pretty awesome, but I just can't do that because Eric already did it. So. Next thing I know, I'll be yelling "Hokey, hokey, hokey high" or something.
So John, you played at Syracuse?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, I'll throw my 2 cents on this one, but not as a player, as a coach. A memorable place that I coached a youth football game was at Kezar Stadium in San Francisco.
Yeah.
The kids were jacked. They were so excited to go play in that stadium.
Be. Yeah.
And from the locker room to the stadium had a tunnel. And it was like carved out of dirt because it was so old. You literally, you would walk through this tunnel. It was like it was going to cave in any second. I still can't believe to this day that they let people walk through. I think they closed it. And as you're walking through, it just fills with dust, and all of a sudden you can't breathe. It was a memorable experience, but those kids were fired up to be able to play at Kezar beyond the old. For those that don't know, the Kezar is where the 49ers played before Candlestick, so it was a long time ago. But still, the kids, they were super excited to play on a field that the 49ers played on. Awesome. I had one other experience where I coached it. We played at halftime of a Raiders game. We had a quick little halftime game out on the field. Show. We were the halftime show. Nice. And I think I had a U10 team, and they signed us up to play against a U12 team. And we they're like, well, sorry, it didn't work out. So you got to go play a U12 team. I'm like, okay. Kids were bouncing off the walls. They were so excited just to be out there on the field at halftime of a professional NFL game. It was that was a memorable experience. Trying to get play calls off. I was coaching the offense, just getting them back in the huddle and getting a play off because they were all just like looking around and they were like so excited. Look, the players. It was electric for them, but it was a great memory. Great memory.
That's awesome. Well, with that, Eric, I want to say thank you for taking the time with us tonight. There's nothing more precious than time in our lives, and we can't ever get it back. So thanks for sharing that with us. And we are excited to take another step into what we're doing here, and that will actually, Joe, wrap us for this edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance, where we're working every single day to honor, improve, and advance the game of tackle football.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for being here, Eric. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, excited about everything you've got going with NFA and keeping those goals going. It's good stuff.
Right on.
Well, that's it for this week. Let's keep the conversation going to help NFA honor, advance, and improve the game of football. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for another set of downs on the Unscripted Huddle.